students. Today in 8th standard science in force and pressure, that is the second unit, we are going to learn and discuss about friction. So already in the last class we discussed about friction which related to viscosity. So now we'll define what is friction. Friction arises when two or more bodies in contact move or tend to move relative to each other. So, for example, when we walk on roads without falling, but we tend to fall when we walk on wet surfaces. Why? We walk on roads safely because of the friction between the feet and the road. But the friction is less when we walk on a wet surface. That makes us to fall. So with this, we'll move on to the effects of friction. Here they have discussed about three effects. That is, the first point is friction opposes the motion. Second point, it causes wear and tear of the surfaces in contact. The third point, that friction produces heat. I discussed three effects that is related to friction. Next is the types of friction. Generally, the frictions are classified into two: static friction and kinetic friction. What is static friction? From the name itself, we can say that the friction experienced by the bodies which are at rest. That is, the objects are rigidly placed at the rest on the earth. It is an example. So, when a friction is experienced by the bodies which are at rest is said to be a static friction. So what about kinetic friction? The friction that is experienced by the bodies which is made during the motion. It is known as the kinetic friction. Now this kinetic friction is classified into two. That is sliding friction and rolling friction. What is sliding friction? When a body slides one over the other is said to be sliding friction. So what happened to whereas rolling friction? When one body rolls over the another is said to be the rolling friction. So you have to understand the concept that the rolling friction is less than the sliding friction. So why are they saying like this? This is the reason why the wheels are provided in vehicles, trolleys and suitcases. So keep in mind that rolling friction is less than sliding friction. Next is about the factors that affect friction. Here they have discussed three major points. The first is the nature of surface. Second is the weight of the body. Third is the area of contact. First one is the nature of surface. Moving an object on a rough surface will be difficult but very easy on a smooth surface. So we can conclude that depending upon the surfaces, friction varies. Second point is the weight of the body. It is easy to pedal your cycle without any load on your carrier. But when your load is placed on your carrier, it is very difficult and it doesn't move with a moderate. So what can we say? As of the friction increases between the tire and road, it makes us difficult to move the pedal of the cycle. Third one is the area of contact. For the given weight, the friction is directly proportional to the area of the contact, whatever the object may be. So if the area of contact is greater, friction will also be greater. For this, they are given an example, that is a road roller. What is a road roller? It has a broad base so as to offer more friction between its roller and the surface, that is the road. So depending upon the area of the contact, the affection of friction is also greater. You all understood? And also when we see the example in cycle has the least friction since that of area of contact of the tire with the surface is less. So now we discussed the major points. Now we are moving to the advantages and disadvantages of friction. So when we discuss about the advantages in our day-to-day life, without friction, nothing will happen. So what are the advantages? First is the general point. Whenever we need to hold an object in our hand, the main property is the friction. Walking on a road is also because of friction. Writing on a paper with a pen is due to friction. When we able to light a matchstick, it is also due to the friction of the two bodies which are involving in the process. Whatever may be the advantages, there are few disadvantages in terms of friction. What are the disadvantages? Friction wears out the surface, rubbing with each other like screws and gears in machines. And also when we walk for more time with the same shoes or chappals, the soles of the shoes get fixed, அதாவது அதை தேய்மானம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல, அதுதான். Second point is that excess amount of friction has to be given, so that too while operating machine. In operating machine, when we give load at high amount of load, it leads to wastage of energy. So this is a disadvantage. Third is the when increased amount of friction is given, it produces heat automatically, which may damage the machines and it may not work more longer and longer. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. Next is about the increasing and decreasing of friction. What happens when we decrease or what happens when we increase friction? First is the area of contact. Friction can be increased by increasing the area of surfaces in contact. When we take example, the brake shoes in cycle have to be adjusted so as they are close to the rim of the vehicle wheel, so that to increase friction between the tire and the road. This is depending upon the area of contact. Next is the lubricant usage. A substance which reduces the frictional force is called the lubricant. Can you name some lubricants? Commonly we use lubricants like grease, coconut oil, castor oil, etc. So these lubricant, what does it do? It fills the gaps in irregular surface between the bodies in contact. Third is the using of ball bearings. As we all already learned that the rolling friction is less than the sliding friction. So whereas that the sliding is replaced by the rolling with the usage of ball bearing. You understand, as we know that rolling friction is less than sliding friction, the sliding property is replaced by the rolling with the usage of ball bearings. And also these bearings like lead shots are used in the bearings of the cycle hub. So today what and all we learned? We learned about friction, how friction is caused, what are its effects, what are its types, advantages, disadvantages and applications. Hope you all understood this topic. We shall meet with a new topic in the next class. Thank you.